Hey folks, welcome back. It's the Big Barn Build, and today, at long last, we're starting the oak frame. First up, corner braces and tenons. So a little look at how we've refined the process so far. I was going to try and do a lot of this on the chop saw, but you just can't get the size and depth of cut to do the tenons on here. But what I'm doing is cut it. These are our corner braces, so cut in the longest point. I'll measure back now for a 70mm tenon, and then one-handed put our line in there. So then what I need to do is just put a cut in here by putting the stop down, and I'll just cut down 12-13mm. If I do that from both sides, I'll end up with a 50mm tenon. So instead of chasing out all these cuts in here, then knocking them out, I'm cutting the full depth cut and the shoulder cut, I guess it's called, of the tenon, and then outside we'll get all this out with a circular saw, chisel it, or even cut in from the end. But that's probably the easiest way to do it, rather than trying to do everything on here. Right, that's 4 roughly cut. Oh well, we were going to carry on and do the other 2, 3, 4, other 6, but I think we'll crack on and get these made up just to prove the concept before we come back and do the rest. So I'm going to use a main circular saw, I think, to cut these down now, and then we'll finish it on the bandsaw. Yeah, I like that. Right, that is the first 4, all cut on the bandsaw. That speeds things up. So we decided we're definitely going to have a curve on the inside face, but we have actually put a gentle curve on the back. Now traditionally, well, the proper way is to use some curved timbers where you've got curved grain, which is going to give it more strength because following the grain is always going to be stronger. So you would use curved members of a tree to plank down into whatever your braces are going to be. We haven't done that, we just bought straight timber like the vast majority of timber frames do with these small braces. Just cut a curve on the inside, but I do think it looks a bit better if we just soften the edge on the back, so it kind of just ties in a little bit nicer. Then with the bandsaw we'll cut down around the tenon, so we're kind of I guess housing the tenon on all 4 sides. Some people just do a half tenon, and you know, I just think as that shrinks or the mortise opens up, you can see inside, whereas if you do it like this, the whole thing's hidden and it looks far neater. So we've got the option: do we carry on, push on and get another 6 made for the next frame, or this is actually all we need to get the sliding door framing done. So I think we're just going to hold off. We're going to park these, dig out our posts, and then get started on the mortise and tenons. Now I'd love to show you a lovely 3D render of what this is meant to look like, but this isn't actually on the render, so you'll have to just use your imagination, or maybe I'll put a little sketch in front of you now. But we've got our big glazed sliding doors, and we're just standing an oak framing just in front of them, so that the oak is just covering over a little bit of the frame of the glazing, same as what we're doing on the front. So the oak will almost sit just beyond that batten, and then there'll be a curve sitting in front of the glass just in a couple of places. Benefit is doing it that way is we've got high performance glazing, all sealed, all tight, all airtight, weatherproof. The oak is going to sit outside, the cladding will sit against, you know, on top and against that. However, it's not directly, it's not in direct relationship with the glass. So you can direct glaze the oak. We've done that in the past on the porch at the last house. But the problem is when you're doing that, you're having to predict how the oak's going to move, where it's going to move, how it's going to shrink. And if you're trying to do an airtight build, that's very difficult to achieve. So I think it's a good compromise doing it this way. So we've got the glazing all sealed in, and then the oak is there, but it's just separate. It's a separate kind of element of the building, but it should look like it's all one. If you're wondering why the dog's tied up, she's on heat. So next door's Labrador is like humping the gate post. Anyway, so this is the corner post all made up. Sorry, the corner brace made up. Now, if you want to, you can buy these ready-made. Most joineries or oak suppliers knock them up themselves, but they charge about 60 quid a piece. Whereas I should have looked. I don't know how much these were a metre. Maybe £20 a metre, maybe less than that. Anyway, it's far cheaper to make your own. And yes, we use the bandsaw, but really, I've done this loads of times with just a circular saw. You can cut in from both sides. You get yourself just a cheap mains power circular saw. It's got a bit more power, decent blade. You can nearly do all of this with just that. Well, you could obviously do it with a handsaw, but it does save you a bit of time. The only thing that is more difficult without a bandsaw is getting that curve in there. So ideally, source some curved timber, or you can go at it with a belt sander. That does take a lot longer than you think. So anyway, we've got them made up, ready on site. It took us maybe 3 hours or so to make up these 4. We could do them quicker now. Now we know, remember what we're doing. Now, one thing you do use when you're timber framing is sawhorses. I've got 7 or 8 of those that I made at the old house. Tom's just knocking up a few more. These are a great way to use up offcuts of timber. These are a few lengths that were a bit curvy that we left in the sun. Obviously, when you cut them down to 600 or 800 or whatever these are, then you soon use up, you know, wood that otherwise you might not be able to use. So we're going to have another 5 of those, which is always handy. They stack. You can put a brace across them to give extra strength, but I've kind of stopped doing that because they stack better without it. So anyway, we're going to have a little herd of sawhorses, and I think somewhere on the realms of YouTube I've got a video, or maybe even 2 videos of how to make these, so I'll see if I can find that. So I'm going to start from the left hand post working to the right, and then once we've started doing some of them, getting the joints made up, we'll start laying it all out. But for now we'll just work one component at a time. First thing first, I'm just going to cut a square end, which is what eventually will sit down onto our saddle stone, and we'll pull the measurement up from there. Right, now I'm going to decide which is the face, which is going to be the kind of main elevation side of it. Now a lot of this is either going to be facing the back, you won't see, facing, well, hidden by cladding and brickwork, so we're only going to see two sides, so that's what I'm going to pick now. We obviously, there's a bit of a chunk taken out one in the corners, so we'll hide that, and then I'll just make sure we've got any big defects. These are box heart mainly, so that means that the heart of the log is in the middle of our cube or square, and therefore any shrinkage is going to be quite, any movement is going to be quite even on all sides. But apart from that, it's more off looks, I think, right now. Okay. Well, I had to nip off with the dog to the vets. Tom's carried on, he's just taken the sides off there, so those tenons are all ready to dry fit and drill and things like that in the next day or so. This tenon's longer, and that's because it's going to go up, and we want to make sure it's got plenty into the half lap of the top one. Now we've thought about doing a nice fancy scarf joint, but we haven't really got enough length in the timber, which is a bit annoying, so we're just going to do a half lap over the centre post, which is fine. And now we're on to this big boy here, which is actually the horizontal beam. Just going to square up the other end. We're going to measure the saddle stones across and then transfer that mark and cut our half lap in this end. Alright, sun's out, floppy hat's out. We're going to get these mortars done, but the first thing to do is the half lap on the big beams across the top. Now these are the beams, they're 200 by 150. Now we could do that scarf join, but because it's going to need more material and we don't really need it structurally, we're just doing a simple, oh hang on, a simple half lap which will sit over the post and just tie it all together. We'll do that now. This end's all cut square, and then we'll be on to mortises. So that's a half lap done on the left hand beam. This is the next one, but this is going to be the half lap of this will be sitting over there. So we're going to cut the square end of this first and measure back from that. So that's where the furthest most right post will be. Furthest most?
Furthest most.
Is that the word? Furthermost. No, further. Nice. Well, just like that, we're on to the next stage, which is going to be cutting all of our mortises and starting to test fit all of our frame together. So far, we're in by one day and we've made a good dent on what we've got to get done. Now, obviously, I'm going to break this down into a couple of videos, and the next video will show all of that mortising, the test fitting, the drilling and the draw pegging and things like that. And then after that, we'll look at raising the frame and see how it looks. Now, if you've got any questions, which I'm sure you may have, that have arisen from this video, leave them down in the comment section and I'll go through those, and hopefully I'll be able to put together a bit of a Q&A at the end of the next video we put out. But we're going to have 3 videos on this oak frame. They'll be coming thick and fast over the next week, and then we're going to be moving on to the main oak frame, which is 2 or 3 times the size, and it's going to go around the front gable end of the building. We're still working out the best way to approach that, but we start on it tomorrow morning. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully there was enough detail there and we showed enough, you know, of the process. But as always, if you've got any questions, just let me know. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.